As President Trump reasserts federal authority over Washington, D.C., former future President Beto O'Rourke has a message for his fellow Democrats.
We are in a basketball game right now, if you'll excuse the metaphor, where the refs have left the arena. And the other side is just clobbering the shit out of us, just punching us in the face, kicking us in the nuts. And we're kind of throwing our hands up and we're asking the crowd, the people of America, hey, do you see what's going on here? This is unfair. This isn't the rules that we agreed to play by. Well, who cares about the rules right now? Punch back, kick back, dunk over their heads, and win some power.
When I look at Beto, it seems to me as if Dr. Frankenstein dug up the bodies of a millennial and a Gen Xer, then cobbled together the most putrid parts, and then animated the monster with estrogen. Let's throw the rules out the window, man! Gee, what a novel concept from the party that brought you open borders, abolishing prisons, and mutilating kids. What if we just, disregarded all the rules and took power, man? Yeah, you did that. You did that for a long time. That's why the people gave your opponents power last November. That's why they gave us power. And in case there was any doubt about the wisdom of the people doing that, the D.C. police chief just vindicated Trump on the very point in question. We'll get to it. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. A Harvard professor is wondering if an alien spaceship is going to reach us in 115 days. That's whenever a Harvard professor says anything, I usually assume the opposite of is true. But that is a true story. That's what the Harvard astronomer is warning about. We'll get to that momentarily. First, I want to tell you about Everyday Dose. Go to everydaydose.com/Knowles. If you feel like you keep juggling expensive supplements that are just getting less and less affordable to keep up with, then Everyday Dose will be a lifesaver for you. Everyday Dose transforms your morning coffee into a powerhouse of vitamins, minerals, and amino acids, all in one affordable cup. Just 30 seconds to prepare, and you are getting your caffeine fix, plus all the nutrients your body needs. One delicious cup, one simple solution. Everyday Dose is not just coffee, it's coffee plus benefits. They've infused their 100% Arabica beans with lion's mane, chaga, collagen protein, and brain-boosting nootropics for clean, sustained energy without the crash or jitters. You can choose between their mild Coffee Plus, which is light, smooth, and gentle on sensitive stomachs. It's very, very good. Or, if you're more like me, you get the Coffee Plus Bold, which is a rich, full-bodied medium roast with an extra energy kick. Both deliver the same functional benefits and undergo rigorous third-party testing to ensure you're getting the best quality. I absolutely love it. Strongly encourage you to get it. And you can also get 45% off your first subscription order of 30 servings of Coffee Plus or Bold Plus. Get the Bold Plus. You'll also receive a starter kit with over $100 in free gifts, including a rechargeable frother and gunmetal serving spoon by going to everydaydose.com/Knowles or entering Knowles at checkout. You'll also get free gifts throughout the year. That is everydaydose.com/Knowles for 45% off your first order. I guess I need to address the elephant in the room. I need to address the Fuhrer in the room. Hitler's in my set today. Hitler and Papa Pio XII. You know who we're talking about, baby? We're talking about Papa Pius XII. Because I have a new series that's debuting on DailyWire Plus right now. It is called The Pope and the Fuhrer, The Secret Vatican Files of World War II. It addresses the horrible calumny, the horrible smears that have come up against Pius XII over the 20th century, early 21st century, including calling him Hitler's Pope. So we'll get to that. Over my shoulder, to the angel and the devil we'll have today on my shoulder. Pope Pius XII, Hitler. Which way, Western man? Which way? Let's get to more prosaic public figures first. That would be the police chief in Washington, D.C., a lady, for some reason, named Pamela Smith, who was asked about President Trump's recent federal assertion of power over the Washington, D.C. Police Department. She was asked a question, a very basic question about what this means, but she did not know what the words of the question mean?
What the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor, speaking to you, or how does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president has requested
Doesn't matter.
MPD services.
You can take her off. It's fine. That single response, that beautifully reflexive response from the Washington, D.C. police chief totally vindicates President Trump asserting federal authority here. Hey, okay, so President Trump has asserted this authority from the Home Rule Act because it's federal district. So what is the chain of command? And the police chief in our nation's capital says, what does that mean? What is the chain of command? How do you want me to do? You want me to mime it? It's a very simple question. What's the chain of command? Me no understand what those words mean. Well, maybe you shouldn't be the police chief. Maybe you're proving President Trump right. Because not only can you not command authority and enforce the law in Washington, D.C., you don't even know what the words mean, which is the point. And it's the problem, and it's why that city is now full of smash and grabs and carjackings and murders and vagrancy and homelessness and allegedly, according to reports from NBC News, even cops trying to cover up all the crime by cooking the crime statistics. Trump totally vindicated here. Now, speaking of law enforcement, at the federal level, not the failures at the municipal level and in the District of Columbia, there is an amazing survey just came out. This is from the Center for Immigration Studies. You remember I mentioned a CIS study a couple of months ago showed that the immigrant portion of the population seems to have dropped by about 1 million people in the first 4 or 5 months of the year. And this was right around the time that Trump's critics on the left were cynically mocking him, and Trump's critics on the right were petulantly mocking him for not deporting enough people fast enough, for failing, supposedly, on the immigration issue, because the arrests were lower than they wished, or the official deportations were lower than they wished. But then CIS came out with this report. So hold on, we're missing 1 million people, 1 million migrants, mostly illegal immigrants, were here in January. They're not here right now. What happened? It's not that Tom Homan exactly threw them out of the country. It's that they self-deported, which is something that President Trump campaigned on. It's something that his DHS under Kristi Noem has really prioritized, even creating an app to encourage people to self-deport. Well, apparently it was working. And now the number of apparent self-deportations has gone from 1 million in 4 or 5 months, pretty good number, to 2.2 million in 7 months. 2.2 million. This is the overall foreign-born population in the United States, down 2.2 million from January to July. The illegal alien population is estimated to have fallen 1.6 million this year. That's 10%. That's 10% at the high number from the conservative estimate. Conservative estimate is that there are 11 to 16 million illegal aliens in the country. So 1.6 million, there you go. That's 10% or maybe more. Where did they get these data from? They're lies, damn lies, and statistics. Well, they got the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, from the Household Survey, which is officially called the Current Population Survey. So it's not even as though they went to Justice Department statistics. It's not even though they're just showing who's working, who's actually employed, who's doing stuff. In many ways, these numbers are much more reliable than Justice Department numbers. 1.6 million fewer this year. So Trump may have, according to CIS, pretty reliable source, may have taken care of 10% of the illegal alien problem. Now, of course, that leaves you 90%. We're already halfway through the first year, a little over halfway through the first year. You only get 4 years. So he's actually kind of on track, right? He's fixed he's gone through 1/8 of the time that he has, and he's fixed 1/10 of the total problem. Those are pretty good numbers, especially when you have people on the left who don't want to fix the problem at all, cynically mocking him. And these petulant saboteurs, a small number of them, but they still exist, and they're very mouthy. Them on the right who are saying, oh, see, this is why I didn't want to vote for Trump. This is why I'm so precious and moral, and I sat the election out, and I would have let Kamala Harris be president. He's not even deporting enough people. I'm so special. I'm so important. I mean, I've never done anything, but I'm going to criticize Trump and the DHS. And, well, I don't know, bro. First of all, if you're a true immigration restrictionist, as I am, and I think most Americans are deep down right now, then 2.2 million total is pretty good. But 1.6 million illegal aliens gone means the self-deportation is working. It means the Trump administration policies are working. It means the plan trusters are vindicated and the panic hands look like total schlubs and losers yet again. Have I put too fine a point on it? I don't think so. Because at a certain point, I don't want it to seem as though I just automatically defend anything the administration does. You know, I have criticized the admin for certain things over the years. As I've said, Trump doesn't get things 100% right. It's about 97.8% of the time he gets it totally, maybe even higher. But he's a human being. Sometimes they get things wrong. It's just at this point, they've gotten things right so many times on so many issues, on immigration, on war, on trade. Remember when tariffs were going to destroy the global economy and then none of that happened and it didn't even cause inflation to spike? And actually, inflation's looking great right now. And actually, Trump was going to be terrible for the pro-life cause. And what happened? He got Roe v. Wade overruled. And actually. And just at a certain point, the reasonable conclusion is to let the guy cook and trust the plan a little bit because it seems to have worked out. And that is true. Yet again, proven true. We've got two major data points now on immigration. Now, speaking of great masses of people, have you noticed all the sorority girls dancing? We'll get to that really, really important story. First, though, I want to tell you about Hallow. Go to hallow.com/Vatican Files. Folks, this August, I want you to join me for St. Michael's Lent Challenge on Hallow. It's a 40-day journey of prayer, fasting, and real spiritual growth inspired by St. Francis of Assisi's devotion to St. Michael the Archangel. I also love that it's in partnership with the Norbertines at St. Michael's Abbey, some of my very favorite men of the church. This is not your typical self-help program, in as much as this one will actually help you. St. Michael's Lent is an ancient tradition that calls us to virtue, sacrifice, and sanctity. You will tackle the 7 deadly sins head on: pride, anger, lust, envy, sloth, gluttony, and greed, with insights from Fulton Sheen's Victory Over Vice, read by Chris Stefanik and Father Isaiah. You'll hear honest, sometimes hilarious stories from people like comedian Shane Smith about battling vice in real life. Plus, you'll journey with the real St. Francis, not the sanitized version, but the bold, radical saint who is completely in love with God. The challenge includes the Litany of St. Michael, gospel reflections, and a powerful closing novena. As we approach Michaelmas on September 29th, remember to wish me a happy Michaelmas. Also, take your chance to arm up spiritually. If you're tired of soft, secular approaches, ready to grow in grace through real spiritual discipline, join St. Michael's Lent. It begins August 13th. That is, by my count, today, on the Hallow app. Our listeners get 3 months for free. Thank you, Hallow, also for sponsoring The Pope and the Fuhrer, the secret Vatican Files for World War II. Check out the Hallow app today. Get 3 months free at hallow.com/Vatican Files. Sorority girls are going viral. Aren't they? They're always sort of going viral. People generally like sorority girls. Well, they're going viral for dancing.
She's a hot little number in her pickup truck. Daddy sweet money done jacked it up. She's a party all nighter from South Carolina. A bad mama jammer from down in Alabama. She's a raging Cajun lunatic from Brunswick. Juicy Georgia Peach with a thick southern drawl.
It's a family show. I need custody of the eyes. But you get the point. The sorority girls have been going viral. I have one question right off the top. Did that ever stop? I know that things got kind of crazy there for a little bit in the 20-teens and 2020s, early 2020s, but there were sororities the whole time, right? And they were like good looking and they did dances and they had partied and that always happened. I'm not convinced that ever stopped. I think that always happened. And a lot of I don't know that that's a huge, massive win for conservatives and that I'm sure a lot of them voted for Kamala or whatever, but I guess it's good. Right? It's good that this is at least going more viral. It's good that this is at least getting more attention. It's mostly good in the sense that 5 years ago, the people going viral would not have been cute little sorority girls. They would have been androgynous, deviant. Right. That's good. It's the Jaguar to Sydney Sweeney pipeline. It's the general move, especially among young people, to the right. And so to the sorority girls who are dancing and going viral, I say 2 cheers. 2 cheers for the sorority girls. It's not 3 cheers, though. For the same reason that Sydney Sweeney's not 3 cheers. It's 2 cheers. It's good. It's an improvement. Better than the... But it's not 3 cheers, because I remember when I was in college, the sororities did not have houses. Or if they had houses, most of the sorority girls did not live in the house. Do you know why? This is probably apocryphal, but the explanation that was given was it dated back to the blue laws in Connecticut that whenever you had more than 7 or 8 girls who were not related to each other living in a house, it was considered a brothel. And I think that's apocryphal, but it certainly comes from real laws that used to exist. And it's not... sororities are not... It's not the ideal. The ideal is good, solid, stable societies where we have modesty, where dating is done in a good, orderly, respectful, good way. But if you're telling me that that's out of reach for most people at the moment, and my choices are tranny polycules or like cute sorority girls jiggling to country music, obviously the latter is to be preferred, and nature is healing. No doubt about that. Okay, speaking of sexualized content, this story came to me by way of a friend of mine. I didn't notice it. I haven't played video games really since Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Before that, it was probably Donkey Kong Country. But EA Games, is that the biggest video game manufacturer? EA Games, in recent years, came out with Sims 4. I remember Sims from when I was a kid. It's a little guys, you play as little guys, and it's just a little town, whatever. So they came out with Sims 4 and an automatic update to Sims 4. This is the real key. So you go out, you buy Sims, and you just get your regular Sims. And then there's an automatic update that you did not ask for, that more importantly, your kids did not ask for, that allows you to choose avatars that are trans. So this came out around the peak of the trans craziness. But this kind of stuff is still around all throughout video games. The parent buys the kid the video game, then there's an automatic update, and EA tells you what's new. Top surgery scar. Under the same body category, all players can find a body scars category with an option for teen and older male Sims, masculine or feminine frame, to add a top surgery scar to their Sims. That's the scar for when girls get their breasts lopped off, and then there's that horrifying Frankenstein scar there. That you can choose that now for teen and older, but teen Sims. You can also choose binders and shapewear. With this update that you can't refuse, that's just an automatic update, players can find 2 new assets and create a Sim. Under the tanks in the tops category, you'll find a binder top asset for your teen and older Sims. In the underwear category for bottoms, there's a new shapewear asset for your Sim. So it's the weird trans instruments. And it came out a couple years ago. I don't think this would have come out new today, but it's around. And it was automatic. And it was designed to bypass parents. And it's a reminder that this radical stuff, not just on the trans issue, though that was the most visible, but on all of it, the racial issues, on everything. It's not organic. There's a guy sitting in a boardroom who makes this decision. And they don't ask the parents, and they don't even really ask the kids. They just push it on you. And because we live in society, because we're not just atomized individuals who are wholly immune from the effects of living in a country, because it actually does matter what the environment around us is like, that affects how we live, because we don't live in a vacuum like the liberals think we do, or the liberals pretend to think that we do. Because of that, these social contagions spread until people have finally had enough. So the fact that this is still permitted to exist is insane. This seems like a really easy fix for me, for Republicans in Congress and for the White House, which is to just require at the very least a warning label. I mean, I think the people who push this stuff should be arrested and thrown into Alcatraz or St. Helena, but at the very least needs a warning label, promotes sexual content, radical sexual content, LGBT, whatever. And then watch the sales of those things drop. And if people violate it, toss them in the can. I mean, this is totally crazy stuff. An easy win for conservatives, especially because the culture is very much on our side now. Where things are looking pretty good. Now, speaking of warnings, a Harvard professor is worried that an alien spaceship is going to reach us in 115 days. Here he is.
Harvard professor Avi Loeb says aspects of these images, including the brightness around the object and its unusual trajectory, suggests it's not natural. Instead, he argues it could be alien technology. You heard that right. So, does this mean ET is real? Joining us to discuss is Professor Avi Loeb. He is the director of the Institute for Theory and Computation at the Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics and the former chair of Harvard's astronomy department.
The object looks strange. It reflects a lot of sunlight, and from that, one infers that the diameter is 20 kilometers. And there is not enough rocky material in interstellar space to provide such a big object every decade.
You're not necessarily saying it is alien technology, or do you think that there is a possibility, or how probable do you think that is?
I actually define the scale where 0 is a natural object and 10 is definitely technological, and I put it at 4 right now.
Okay.
At 4? So you're saying 10, it's definitely happening, 0, it's not happening. You're saying there's a 40% chance. The Harvard professor, what was he, a top Harvard astronomer, all these academic honors, is saying there's a 40% chance that an ET alien spaceship is going to arrive at Earth in 115 days. Intellectuals will do literally anything to avoid admitting that human beings are special. That's what this is all about. What this is all about is intellectuals doing anything in their power to deny the possibility that human beings are in fact special. Because that's my view. I think human beings are special. I think we're made in the image and likeness of God. I think we're unique on this planet because we alone have reason and will. We're like the animals in that we are bodies and we have appetite and instinct. But unlike the animals, we have reason and will. And I know I can already hear some PETA donor out there who's saying that actually, animals are really smart too, and they can reason, and they're much smarter than we think they are. Oh yeah? Well, then put one of them on trial for biting you. You going to do that? Are you willing to do that? Dogs are so smart. Oh, they're so smart? Then put them on trial and imprison them and for biting you. Make them pay restitution when they commit crimes and transgress the moral order. Oh, you're not going to do that? Why? Because they can't violate the moral order? Because they can't reason? Oh, right. Oh, but did you know that elephants actually sometimes walk over the graves of their dead? Or, oh, do they? Okay, cool. Are we going to give elephants loans from the bank? Are we going to give them 30-year mortgages? Are we going to subject them to our legal system? Are we going to... No, we're not, because they're animals. We all know they're just animals and they don't have reason and will. And we all behave that way all the time, and none of you actually believes that they have reason and will. So we're like the animals in that way. We're bodies, we do have instinct, we do have appetite, but we're like the angels in that we have intellect and will, and we're special. And what the libs say, and what all these intellectuals say, they say, well, not even intellectuals, just popular people who refuse to accept religious truths, they'll say, well, Michael, the universe, man. Hold on one second. The universe, man. It's so big. It's statistically impossible that the universe could be so big, but we're the only intelligent life with will and reason in it, man. And you say, okay, that's an interesting claim. Where do you get that from? What are the statistics? Tell me about the probabilities. How is that? Why? Well, it's just so big. Yeah? So what? Why does the bigness of the universe imply that there is intelligent life elsewhere other than Earth? Well, because it's just the conditions that allowed intelligent life to arise. What conditions? What conditions? This is the crucial question. Tell me, in your story of things, how we went from inanimate matter to life, first of all, and then how we went either from inanimate matter or from unintelligent life to life that has reason and will. Tell me how that happened. Because in order to assess the probability of that happening elsewhere, I need to know how you even think that happened in the first place. And you're not going to give me an answer. Not you. I'm talking. You're very intelligent people, but I'm talking about these Harvard professors. I'm talking about all the geniuses on Reddit. I'm talking about all these people who say it's totally impossible that the universe could be big, but there not be other human-like creatures in it on other planets. What? In order to know that probability, you have to know anything whatsoever about how life began and how intelligent life began. And you don't. I have a thesis. Here's my thesis. I think that God fashioned man after his own image and redeemed mankind. And you're going to say, well, you're just a religious person, Michael. You're just a Catholic or what? Yeah, I am. You're right. Yes, that's my view. What's your better story? What's your more persuasive argument? I haven't heard it. Have not heard it whatsoever. These are people who think we should arrest gorillas for attacking people at the zoo. These are people who think we should give elephants 30-year mortgages because they're so smart, aren't they? Now, speaking of mortgages and banks, I want to tell you about Old Glory Bank. Go to oldglorybank.com/Knowles. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Most big banks in this country are not neutral. They're actively working against you. They take the money you deposit, they use it to fund things that you oppose. They use it to undermine faith, family, and freedom. They use it to support gender ideology, abortion, activism, ESG mandates, you name it. You are usually unwittingly helping them do it. Well, you can't say it's unwitting anymore because I'm telling you. That's why you need to open an account at Old Glory Bank. Be like me. I heard about Old Glory Bank. I go straight to the website. It's very easy to open an account. I highly recommend it. It's FDIC insured, built by people who fear God, love this country, still believe in right and wrong. They don't fund evil. They don't cancel people for standing up for truth. They protect your money and what you believe. Super simple. Even I can do it, and I have a short attention span. If you believe stewardship matters, put your money where your heart is. It only takes minutes to switch. Stop letting your money serve the wrong side. Join me. Join tens of thousands of customers on the right side of banking at oldglorybank.com/Knowles, oldglorybank.com/KNOWLES. Don't let yourself get debanked. Go to oldglorybank.com/Knowles. Speaking of man's role in the cosmos, really, really great news coming out of the state of Israel. One does not hear that very often, but there's really great news coming out of the state of Israel, which is that the Hebrew Catholic Association has launched. What is the Hebrew Catholic Association? You ask? Good question. Read just from the Catholic News Agency. A group dedicated to providing a welcoming space for Jewish converts to Catholicism has launched in Israel. The Association of Hebrew Catholics celebrated its official launch with a mass on August 8th, the eve of the feast of its patron, St. Edith Stein, who was a Jewish convert to Catholicism. The Syriac Catholic Exarch of Jerusalem, Bishop Yaakov Ephraim Seman, acted as the host for the event. There are Catholics, though, who are really into this. The Latin Patriarch, Cardinal Pizzaballa, who was papabile. He was considered one of the Pope candidates this recent cycle. He's really wonderful. He's been outspoken in a really clear moral way on the situation in Israel, Gaza. He's managed to irritate partisans on both sides, which is how you know he's probably right. And reportedly, Cardinal Burke is encouraging of this move. I love it. You know what I love about this story? You know what I love about the Hebrew Catholic Association story? It is going to be criticized simultaneously for being philo-Semitic and anti-Semitic. It's at the same time, people are going to say that it is hateful to welcome the Jews to Catholicism, to Christianity, and that we don't want those dirty, rotten Jews in Christianity. That's at the same time, it's going to, the people who say they're the great defenders of Jews and the people who hate the Jews, they're both going to criticize this Catholic organization with the support of some of the most important men of the church and some of the most important prelates. That's how you know it's a great organization. Because, of course, if you, like me, think that the incarnation is real and the crucifixion and the resurrection really happened and that Christ really is who he says he is and this is the true religion. You know, Catholicism means universal. It's the true religion. It's true for everybody because we have human solidarity, because humans really are special and we do have something that unites all of us and we descend from a common ancestor and we're redeemed by a common savior. If you believe that, then you, and if you believe that and you have charity, which St. Paul tells us is the prerequisite for all of our actions in life, all of our religious life. You can have faith, you can have hope. If you don't have charity, you're nothing. If those two things are true, then you want people to come on over and embrace the fullness of truth. You're not going to be like the Muslims and make them do it at the end of a sword, but you want them to come over to the truth. You want to welcome them. And I think it's just a marvelous, marvelous organization, wonderful thing for everybody. And I think it also exposes people who don't really believe it. If you are a Catholic and you say, well, I don't like this, let the Jews just do their own thing. We don't need to go evangelize to the Jews. Then either you're saying you don't believe Catholicism is true or you hate the Jews. But you have to be saying one of those things. And likewise, if you say, well, look, I love the church, of course, but I don't want those dastardly Jews bringing their hamantaschen and bagels to my, Sunday brunch after church. Well, what you're revealing is you don't have charity, and you maybe you believe that the faith is true in some way, but you lack charity, and you don't want to incorporate others or our fellow men into the mystical body of Christ. You don't really believe in the Great Commission, making disciples of all nations, not all nations, but one, but all nations. I think it's terrific. I think it's just wonderful. And it's good to see some happy news coming out of the Levant. Okay, speaking of Catholics, our Vice President, J.D. Vance, is he's firing some shots off. The Vice President is, while everyone else is focused on myriad and sundry other issues, he's reminding us, the Democrats wielded power in a rather unjust way over the last 10 years. And we all experienced this during COVID, and the political class, the president, experienced this during the Russia hoax and the undermining of Trump's whole first term. I mean, the Democrats in many ways stole Trump's first term from him and therefore stole the right of the American people to pick their president in 2016. They stole that. They severely undermined that based on lies, things that they knew were not true. They cooked up fake news about Trump between the Clinton camp and the FBI, and they used that as an excuse to destroy his first term. And no one has been held to account for that. No one whatsoever. The vice president coming out there and saying, look, we have the receipts, and a lot of people are going to get indicted.
Do you want to see indictments?
I absolutely want to see indictments, Maria. Look, of course, you've got to have the law follow the facts here. You don't just indict people to indict people. You indict people because they broke the law. But if you look at what Tulsi and Kash Patel have revealed in the last couple of weeks, I don't know how anybody can look at that and say that there wasn't aggressive violations of the law. What they basically did is they defrauded the American people in order to take Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign talking points and turn them into intelligence by defrauding the American people, defrauding the intelligence agencies, lying about what the intel said. They would take something that supported a Hillary Clinton campaign talking point and they would overemphasize it and exaggerate it. They took anything that actually contradicted that narrative and they buried it deep. And through that, they actually laundered Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign talking points through the American intelligence services. That's a violation of the people's trust. That's a violation of what our intelligence services should be doing. And I absolutely think they broke the law. And you're going to see a lot of people get indicted for that.
So notice here, I'm a great admirer of the vice president. I think he's got a very clear political vision. But politicians threaten stuff all the time. Even the good ones threaten stuff. So you don't, if they're being too vague, you say, well, I don't know if anything's going to happen here. Vance is making a distinct claim. He's not just saying, oh, you just wait. He says, people are going to get indicted. That's a distinct claim. That's not a threat. That's a promise. So this is good news. He goes on to say, look, I don't just want to have more hearings before some House committee or something. I want indictments. And we're going to have indictments. And this is very important. Why is it important? It is summer's last stand. Days are getting shorter, grills are getting cold, and coffee shops are already trying to seasonally gaslight you with pumpkin spice. Be first in line for everything coming to DailyWire Plus before the fall chaos hits. Start with my brand new series, The Pope and the Fuhrer, The Vatican Files of World War II. I crack open 80 years of Vatican secrets the history books forgot to mention. This fall, The Isabel Brown Show premieres. It is a new voice for a new generation of conservatives, plus the decade of the Daily Wire anniversary shows, celebrating 10 years of upsetting all the right people. You get all of it, plus news from the most trusted and handsome voices in conservative media and unfiltered, uncensored opinions you can't get anywhere else. Summer ends, but our beautiful national tradition does not. Get 40% off a new annual Daily Wire Plus membership right now. Join millions just like you at dailywireplus.com. My favorite comment yesterday is from Tiffany M4B, who says, as a married woman, I don't feel like I have to do it. I get to do it. I think you know what we're talking about here. I don't need to be more explicit. This is a family show. Well, that's good. That's ideal. But I actually am making a concrete point here. Yeah, it's good that you feel that you get to do. That's what you want in a marriage. It shouldn't be a burden. It shouldn't be a duty. But you do have to do it. You do have. This is the point. Before this all came up in the context of Lila Rose going viral for an apparently controversial tweet and podcast clip on how husbands and wives relate to each other in a marriage. She made this claim, men don't need sex. And she was saying something really kind of different, actually, than what it seemed like she was saying. But in any case, the preface to any discussion of this is, married men do. Married men are entitled to sex, and you actually have to. Ideally, you want to. But even if you don't want to, you have to. That's what you're signing up for. I don't really know how this point is controversial. What do people think marriage is? If it is not that, what is marriage? Why? Why will there be indictments? Funny enough, the reasoning is the same reasoning that Beto O'Rourke gave when he was projecting what Democrats do onto Republicans.
Well, I think the only thing the far left really responds to is power, Jim, if I'm being honest. I wish that wasn't the case, but it actually is. And so, the thing that they're actually going to be responsive to is the recognition that there are consequences on the other side. And this is why it's so important and why the president is so insistent that we actually take legal action against those who broke the law in the Biden administration. If they get off scot-free, if they're never investigated, if they're never prosecuted when they violated the law, then they're just going to come back and do the exact same thing again. And there are a few different ways, of course. So it's the big tech companies that were censoring conservatives. They've got to know that's not going to be allowed, and there are going to be consequences for it. The banks, the president is really preoccupied with this, and rightfully so. So many conservative nonprofits were debanked. They actually had their money stolen from them by these big Wall Street institutions. You've got to make sure that doesn't happen. And of course, you've got to pay the lawfare back in kind. You've got to say to the Comeys and the Brennans of the world, of course, you got to follow the law. You can only prosecute people when they actually broke the law. But we know that a lot of people broke the law in the last administration, and they've got to face real justice.
Yes. All of that is true. It's so obviously true. Beto O'Rourke just admitted it. One of the most prominent Democrats of the last 5-6 years just admitted it. He says, we need power. We need to take power. And he went further. Notice what the vice president said here. He said, look, we're going to follow the law. We're going to behave within the constraints of the law, but we are going to wield the power that the people gave us. That's exactly the right view. Beto O'Rourke says, F the law. F the rules. F. He thinks because he's the worst combination of millennials and Gen Xers. He thinks it's like really cool when you say the F word. Ooh, I'm bad. I skateboard around parking lots and I say the F word. I'm bad. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. All right. But passé. It seems passé. Don't marry the spirit of the age. You will be a widow in the next, as Beto O'Rourke increasingly is. So they're admitting it, and JD makes his point. He says, we have to pay the lawfare back in kind, because if we don't, they're just going to keep doing it, and they're going to do it in more egregious ways, and that not only will harm us, that will damage the common good. Totally right. Now, speaking of power, troubling story coming out of Mozambique. ISIS is beheading Christians and burning churches. This, according to international observers, soldiers aligned with ISIS, there are all sorts of little ISIS groups, are beheading Christians and burning churches and homes in Africa. The most brutal attacks appear to be happening in Mozambique, but it's happening throughout Africa. I almost didn't cover this story because I've covered this kind of story so many times. How many times have I covered the story? Muslim radicals target Christians, behead Christians, kill Christians. How many times? Not just me covering the story. How many times has this story happened? This story has been going on for 1,400 years. Don't forget the Arab conquest of the Levant. You have Islam beginning in Arabia. They conquer the Levant, the Holy Land. This was Christian territory, primarily, in the 7th century. You have the Muslims conquering North Africa, all around the Mediterranean, up into Europe, getting to within 150 miles of Paris by 732. Conquering Iberia and sticking around Iberia until 1492, when Ferdinand and Isabella, the great Spanish monarchs, booted them out and ended the Reconquista by winning the Reconquista. This has been going on for a long time. And so the reason I bring this, I mean, it's very sad and we should pray for these people and try to help them if we can. The reason I bring this story up, though, is there's all this talk about political realignment. We constantly are hearing political realignment. And there is a kind of realignment going on, and the working class is moving more to the right, and different racial groups are actually shifting more to the right as well. And we're beginning to rethink our enemies and our friends and our this and our that. And we do want to win Muslim votes, especially as Democrats have imported a bunch of Muslims to live in certain states, some swing states, including places like Michigan or places like Minnesota, which are not really swing states, but still we'd like to get their votes there too. Just something to keep in mind is historical trends persist. If things have been a certain way for a long time, a conservative insight is there's probably a reason for that. And it's a liberal folly. It's a radical, revolutionary liberal folly to think that we're just going to recreate the world anew. Revolutions are almost always terrible. That's another conservative insight. People who present themselves as radicals, as revolutionaries, are usually wrong. Usually. And it's not that it's 100% of the time, but it's a pretty safe bet. If there have been tensions between Islam and Christianity for 1,400 years, if there has been significant oppression of Christians by Muslims for now going on 1,400 years, with all the nuances and all the details and all the color and everything that goes with that, probably the fundamental things will apply as time goes by. That's just a little bit of cold water to temper everyone's zeal and enthusiasm for the realignment. Yes, you need realignments, but prudence is the paramount political virtue. Let's not think we're going to reinvent the world. Let's not become the utopians that we mock when we see them on the left. Okay, now there's a really great story I have to get to today. And it's going to seem like it's out of left field, but it's really important. The left has had such a hard time criticizing this administration that they have to criticize it for nonsense. The federal takeover of DC, which is a federal district, and has always been under the control of the federal government. That's a silly thing to criticize Trump for. Criticizing Trump for destroying the global economy. When you look at the markets, you look at prices, you look at inflation, it's fine. Criticizing Trump for starting World War III because he bombed an Iranian nuclear facility, nothing of the sort happened. They're attacking him for a lot of... They're attacking him for building a ballroom on the White House because they need a new event space. They got very little. Well, here's the latest controversy. This by way of the Wall Street Journal. White House to vet Smithsonian museums to fit Trump's historical vision. Top White House officials will scrutinize exhibitions, internal processes, collections, and artist grants ahead of America's 250th anniversary. This is the big. I looked on the Drudge Report, which has become this radically anti-Trump, mostly left-wing. It used to be kind of right-wing. Now it's left-wing news source. And you look at it, it says, Trump trying to change the Smithsonian. Not even the Smithsonian erases Trump's authoritarian grasp. The White House is trying to scrutinize exhibitions, processes, collections, and art ahead of America's 250th anniversary. I would just respond and say, yeah, of course, duh. What do you think art is? What do you think the Smithsonian is? The Smithsonian is a collection of museums, art, history, science, all these things, to tell the story of America. This coming year is the bisesquicentennial, the 250th anniversary of the founding of America. We're telling the story of America. The White House has made it a national initiative, as a Democrat White House probably would have too, to tell the story of America. Yeah, I think Trump is going to care about that. Yeah, I think that the party that represents America, that most Americans have elected, that won the popular vote, is going to care about that. Yes, of course. Are you kidding me with this reaction? The people who say that politics is downstream of culture and conservatives need to get back in the arts, and then the left, which has said that the arts is so important and ran the revolution through the institutions, the Long March, and all of a sudden we're supposed to be shocked that the White House has an artistic interest in architecture and making federal buildings beautiful again, in the Smithsonian, how the Smithsonian tells the story of America. Of course. The self-conception of the United States has changed many times over the years. That's true of any state. What we thought we were when the Mayflower landed, which is a great cigar company, by the way, what we thought we were when the Mayflower landed is very different than what we thought we were in the late 17th century. Very different than what we thought we were in the French and Indian War. Very different than what we thought we were in the American Revolution or in the post-revolution period. Articles of Confederation, even of the Constitution. Very different than what we thought we were around the Civil War or at the beginning of industrialization or into the 20th century or now. Very important. The fact that over the last 30 years, we say that America is just an idea and, we're purely a melting pot, if even that. We're an abstract idea and a liberal democracy. That's a very novel conception of America. That's not what George Washington thought. That's not what Abraham Lincoln thought. That's not what Teddy Roosevelt thought, even. And Teddy Roosevelt was actually in the audience at the play that coined the phrase the melting pot. These things change over time. Yes, thank goodness Trump cares about what's going on at the Smithsonian. It shows you that this is an administration that is dialed in. We want them to be very, very dialed in because we want to make good use of the time that we have in power that the people have given us, while Beto O'Rourke whines about it. Today is Woke Wednesday. The rest of the show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member and use code Knowles at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.